Welcome to a very wet Okayama for round 5 of the Marathon GT World Tour. It will be damp and wet all session long as our drivers will have to tame these V8 monsters yet again. A small field and absences will create a chance for Constantinou to really pull away in the championship, but can she take advantage of that opportunity? My name is Taylor Mills, alongside me Olivia Hayward, and pushing the buttons Amity Pulsatrix, and we'll be live from lights to flag here on ABN. Draped over the Mimasaka hillside lies a circuit lots of drivers will know from making up the base content package. Every single driver in tonight's field will have had to cut their teeth on the 11 corners that climb up and down at that hillside, but now in a completely different set of conditions. For tonight's run at Okayama, our drivers will be slipping and sliding around on a very damp track surface and scrabbling for grip with 700 horsepower to play with. We've seen how this field plays in conditions like we've got tonight, so how will they handle it on this particular opportunity? Joining me tonight to help bring you all of the racing action is my long-suffering co-commentator, iRacing IndyCar veteran, Olivia Hayward. Liv, with the absence of Emily Howe tonight, it really opens up the championship for Bianca Constantinou to build a huge lead. So let's talk about that.
Yeah, I was looking into the stats as we go into this round. The standings currently, Bianca Constantinou leads the points by, I believe, 41 over Emily Howe, as those two are pretty far in front of the rest of the pack. Christina Ryan, third place, is the closest competitor and is here today. But in that first round competition, before Emily Howe made her debut in the series, Bia scored 42 points, which means that since the two drivers have been sharing the track, there has been only 1 point in total separating the two of them. So it's been a very closely fought battle, but Bia has been doing enough throughout those races to keep hold of that advantage from the opening round. And with Emily Howe absent, this is her chance to well and truly put it out of reach. With that being said, the greatest battle and the greatest competitor that Bia and the rest of the field have today is with the racetrack and with the weather. So nothing is guaranteed here for the 57. And we are very much waiting to see whether she's able to stand up to that pressure and come through with a fantastic weekend of racing there.
And that's just it really, Liv. It is going to be a battle between the track, the driver, and the car. We always talk about how much power these cars have, because it's a ridiculous amount of power for what these cars sort of are. They're very heavy, very little aero. They build up a lot of straight line speed, but they can barely corner. So it's really a case of you have to be able to get the thing stopped, and you have to be able to get the thing turned in, and you have to be able to balance it mid-corner. And these cars just aren't really built for that. On some of the cameras, you'll see the amount of spray being thrown up by the cars, and that's a true indicator as to how much standing water is on the track surface. Just look at it all. The car's absolutely disappearing into it. And the tricky thing is going to be all of those downhill braking zones. Think down at turn 5, you've got the run down the hill in 10 and into the last corner. And they're going to be very slippy and very tricky to get the cars through, especially when that rubbered in racing line is going to be absolutely slick. You can see drivers already avoiding the racing line where they can. I think that's Bruce Silver that are following here, just coming down to that racing line relatively late, which is something you can do after you've got that grip and got the car pointed in a straight line. But before you've done that, you really are a little bit SOL.
You sure are. iRacing reporting the track as very wet for today's session, and the rain is set to continue for hours after we are done here today. So no chance of any respite for these drivers. They'll have to just manage the grip where it forms on the running of the race cars, and with the break between that practice session and qualifying, which we now enter, a 10-minute session, which you have to remember this time ends the moment the checkered flag flies. There is no time to finish your lap in this. So you've only got really a couple of opportunities to try and put down a good lap time and find where the grip has moved to. The very dynamic system is the temperature weather system. And that is the main thing drivers have to deal with. Of course, not allowed to reset either, but to be fair, you wouldn't have enough time to get a competitive lap in if you get a whole set of tyres once again. So this is going to be a very tricky and a very high stakes qualifying session here.
Yeah, and Liv, you touched on how you can't reset in these qualifying sessions, but it's not really something that you'd want to do either, as is so often the case in any sort of wet qualifying session in any form of motorsport. Your best bet is to make sure you are out there for, well, really every single minute of the session, because as the cars are going around, they're going to lift all that water, well, at least some of that water, off the track surface, and it's going to be advantageous to at least try and be the last driver out there on the track. Just watch Alexia go for a big slide off the track down at turn 5, shortly followed, I think, by championship leader Bianca Constantinou. Both cars stationary off the side of the circuit. So if they can't get these cars moving or they have any sort of damage, that could be a deciding factor in the championship for Constantinou already, who has actually had to tow back to pit lane and has rejoined the surface. So, Liv, are we having a bit of a misunderstanding on the rules again?
I think we are. And it's confusing because Bia didn't actually have damage there. I don't think was beached in the gravel. But may have picked qualified pretty lightly. Zero very much did find the barrier and is limping that car, or attempting to limp that car back to pit lane. But I think her session might be done as well here with, I think, the left front tyre completely detached from where it should be. But yeah, already a dramatic start to the session. Just the outlap showing how tricky it is to keep these cars pointed in a straight line. And I unfortunately do think this could end up playing a bit of a factor as we go towards next week's race in the channel, as we go over to Montreal, Gilles Villeneuve, which is a fantastic track and very close quarters with the walls for these cars.
Yeah, quite similar to Okayama, I'd say, in quite a few ways. Big long straights, heavy braking zones, some tricky little corners in there as well. We do have cars starting to put down some qualifying times. We've currently seen a purple first sector for Derek Miller, but he made a mistake down into turn 5, so that lap will be mud. Lilac Zia pulling down pit lane. I think there's going to be some lengthy repairs on that car. We've seen any sector times coming in. It has taken everyone quite a while to get around the circuit. Miller getting held up a little bit by Eva Melton. I'm sure the 81 being a distraction to the driver of the 56 on the outside of turn 8 there. This lap pretty scrub for Derek Miller. Pretty sure he'll have picked up an off track from that one, so it'll really be the next time by where he's maybe going to try and start pushing a little bit.
Yeah, it's really the last lap in the session where you're going to have heat in the tyres anyway. So for a driver like Derek Miller, who's managed to get a couple of clean laps in, this is where you really start to find pace. 146 is the first time on the board to Trina Ryan. There was just 0.3 off, but considering that Bia set a 141.5, Derek Miller set a 42.4 during that practice session, and the conditions shouldn't have changed that significantly since then. I think it's all in the tyre heat of where those few seconds of pace have gone. And there's plenty of time left in the session for these drivers to run some laps and find that heat to really start pushing again.
Miller very much on a karting line through turn 4 there. Bruce Silva has gone to the top of the timing sheets with a 44.4 flat. Robin Robinson has inserted themselves just above Christina Ryan with a 46.845, only a thousandth of a second off Derek Miller's best efforts so far, but he is purple and personal best in sector 1 and 2. But I want to talk about that karting line he took through turn 4, going really deep into that corner, getting it all turned in very, very late in the day and firing that car off the exit in as straight a line as possible. Can't get the mid-corner speed, got to try and get that exit speed instead in these conditions.
Yeah, that's the crucial thing. Again, it's the you want to try and brake on the inside line, like a car with the inside, and then if you can carry speed around the outside where the rubber isn't laid down, you will find grip there, and it'll let you just carry momentum more than anything around that wider arc. You're so light on mechanical grip here. But ultimately, the wings, as you know, low downforce as these cars are, there's still enough in the bodywork to carry you through a corner. And so if you can carry speed up by going wider through there, it'll benefit you a little bit. And I think that is the strategy they're going for as Derek Miller goes fastest. Has a 43.4 in the book. Bruce Silver does find an improvement, I believe. Oh no, she doesn't finish in her lap. She's on a slightly different cycle on the racetrack. Does 36 have an improvement here? Yes, but it will not be enough. Just 3/100ths of a second off. Very much a two-horse race so far in this qualifying session between Derek and Brew. Christina Ryan the next closest, but more than 2 seconds back right now.
I think that's a surprising thing as well. We know how fast Christina Ryan can be, but just isn't putting the laps down in this session so far. Robin Robinson finding a little bit of time as well to just get into the 44.3s. Again, that's still 0.8 of a second off Miller and Silver. I think the interesting thing about this field is always the fact that even when it's short, they manage to find lap times that are very, very similar to each other. So even with only, goodness, I want to say 9, 10 cars out there tonight, we've still got 2 cars within 0.03 of a second.
We've had a few late entries up to 12 now, and helpfully a couple of Chevrolets hopping in to fill out the field. We have Will Brown and Josh Gaiman, but also we do have Lucas Nilges making a debut. I apologize if that is not the correct way to pronounce that, but in that number 3 Chevy, looking to make a stand. Bia Constantinou does go fastest with a 42.2. Derek Miller jumps into that bracket as well, but 0.6 of a second off. And there's gonna be a little bit of paying the piper next weekend for Bia's qualifying spot, but for now that is going to stand, and that is going to be provisional pole position.
Yeah, that was a must-get lap for Bianca Constantinou, who was absolutely nowhere before she got that 42.2 in. It was that big improvement from Derek Miller that kept him competitive, but at the end of the day, couldn't quite do anything to match Constantinou so far. We tick past 2 minutes to go in the session. There will be time for probably 2 more laps.
One more lap,
most.
Remember.
Oh, yeah, no, it ends straight away. But one more lap for most of the field. Here is Constantinou. We are going to stick with your championship leader as she makes her way with very tricky turns 8 and 9, almost switchback nature up the hill like you would find on so many of those mountain roads here in Japan. I'm seeing a purple sector 1. I'm seeing a purple sector 3. With 1 sector to go, can she find another improvement? Through the last corner she comes, staying a little bit wide, trying to keep 2 tires just off that racing line to try and find some grip. Fires that Ford Mustang V8 supercar out of the corner, and it's the run all the way down to the start finish line. It's a purple final sector, and it is a huge improvement, 141.955. Now Derek Miller, who is looking to challenge, he's coming through turn 11 now. He's got slipstream from that number 3 Chevy just in front of him to pull him down the straight. I'm seeing a personal best in sector 2 for him. Across the line he comes, 43.124. It isn't good enough for an improvement, and that may have cost him a shot at pole position. Still a couple more cars to come to the start finish line. Bruce Silver not improving on this lap. Robin Robinson not improving on this lap. Christina Ryan was green in the final sector last time round, but it was a slight improvement that still put her absolutely nowhere. So Liv, if I was a betting woman, I'd say that's going to be our grid set, even though Josh Gaiman...
Not quite. We have Lilac and Josh Gaiman. They don't have laps in right now, but they will have time to finish these, so these are absolutely crucial for their session.
It's about
the final corner, just about managed to keep it in the racetrack. We're following Josh Gaiman behind. They'll both have to run to the line. They should both make it. Lilac Zir, first one to throw a lap onto the board, and it looks like it will not be valid. And then Gaiman can't find a response either. Bailey Thompson. Don't know if 27 made it into the session in time to join the grid here. We'll see. But it's Bia Constantinou on pole position, Taylor.
It certainly is. I'll repeat that one again. Championship leader Bianca Constantinu will start from the front row of the grid in that pole position alongside Derek Miller. About a second of that time between them. Bruce Silva will line up third alongside Robin Robinson in their second round of the championship. As you move down to row 3, it's going to be, where is it? It's going to be Christina Ryan alongside Lucas Nilges, the highest placed Camaro so far, with Eva Melton and Lilac Zier lining up in 7th and 8th. Next row down on the grid, you've got Nicholas Pressey lining up alongside Will Brown. And on row 6, you'll find Chelsea Carter and Joshua Gaiman, who couldn't get a lap in. And that's going to make up the grid for today's race. It will be 12 cars making their way down to turn 1 in some very tricky conditions. We've got about 1 more minute of grid in here before we get underway from at 4 even. 15 minutes of racing. We've got 3 races tonight, all 3 of them 15 minutes long, and that means it is frantic racing from end to end, minute to minute. You have to make every single move, every single corner count, otherwise you are missing out on valuable points. Tick down to about 30 seconds before this race gets going. Don't forget what's at store, or what's at stake here today. Constantinu in the lead of the championship. Emily Howe not present at today's round, so we'll be missing out on 3 championship point scoring opportunities and give Constantinu an opportunity to really start to run away. We are waiting for about 3 more cars to grid before we really get
pit lane starts here.
But even then, Liv, I think you're right. We are going to see a couple of pit lane starts as gridding is going to come to an end. I don't think Bailey Thompson's going to make it. The lights come up. We're going to illuminate 3, 4, 5 lights, and it's lights out and away we go. Bianca Constantinu got a very even start compared to Derek Miller. Derek Miller is going to have that line down the inside. Almost contact between both of them as Miller gets forced onto the paint for that pit lane exit. They'll slot into single file, but just in the background, we've got Bruce Silva and Lucas Nilges going side by side. Robin Robinson up to 3rd place, as now they're all starting to get into single file. Very clean start and a very clean getaway from everyone, as they're all just tiptoeing to get that first lap under their belt.
Yeah, very aggressive move there from Bia, and nearly put herself onto that pit exit line, which we know can be super treacherous. Does manage to cover off the move into turn number 1. And as they move through a little bit of a whittle from Robin Robinson in the in turn 4 there, but managed to keep hold of it and keep hold of 3rd place, which she's gotten from Bruce Silva, who is a little bit further back here. Visibility is now going to be the big problem. Something that drivers didn't really have to deal with in qualifying, but is going to be a huge factor for these cars during the rest of this one.
So Constantinu taking great advantage of the pace she showed in qualifying. Already clear of Derek Miller by 1.5 seconds. But the driver of the 56 still has Robinson and Silva for company just behind, as they were both relatively competitive in qualifying. We'll see how it translates to race trim. But here's Lucas Nilges just having a look around the outside of Christina Ryan. Saw these two side by side on the run down to turn 5. A little bit more shuffling of position as well. I think a mistake from Chelsea Carter, letting Josh Gaiman slide his way through. I'm trying to see where even Melton is. Actually down pit lane right now. Somehow.
Yeah, so taking the pit lane start there, and is now going to be leaving the pit lane, but
she's going to be a lot down.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure what's happened here. So a couple of the drivers ended up not taking the grid. Even Melton's now come back out. Bailey Thompson joined early enough to be listed as an entry in the session, but did not get assigned a grid spot for race 1. We'll see if that hopefully restores itself for the second race of the weekend. As it stands right now, Bia has managed to cover off at the start of the race, has got a huge run, but Chelsea Carter further back has picked up a meatball flag from an incident down at turn 1, it looks like, and will have to make the first use of the fast repair available.
Well, here comes the replay for you on, it's going to be Chelsea Carter going well deep into turn 1. The 43 just not getting that car stopped and slamming that Ford Mustang into the outside barrier. Usually the tyre barrier is a little bit more forgiving in iRacing, but on this particular opportunity, not providing any sort of respite. Here's Robinson and Silva. Silva still looking for a way to try and squeeze by Robinson, just not being able to find a way to get through. With 3 15-minute races, all in wet conditions, this race one, well, particularly in the practice, this is your time to try and find those ultimate racing lines and hunt for the grip. I think it's so easy, Liv, as a driver in these conditions, to find a line that works for you and just sort of stick to it.
Yeah, it's ultimately you're going to be rewarded for consistency in a race like this. The ultimate pace can matter in those very narrow battles, but if you're looking to come here and just get a good haul of points across the weekend, you want to make sure you stay between the white lines for all 45 minutes of racing. Bia Constantinou sets a 42.8, a great lap from her. She's now 3 seconds up the road. They're trying to hold on and do a decent job to keep her honest there, but it is this fight. Robinson getting the jump on the initial race start and now fending off Bruce Silva for that final spot on the podium. Great performance so far this season from the 24, and continue again with gotta say one of the scariest drivers to have in your rearview mirrors. Bruce Silva, very clean of course, but also very, very good at getting those moves done throughout the season so far.
Yeah, certainly very aggressive as well. I want to say shout out to Robin Robinson running that gorgeous Wood Brothers livery that we saw at Darlington in real life in NASCAR last weekend. That was a tribute to one of the old Lotuses that used to run around the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. I think it's something that a lot of us inside and outside of the broadcast booth were very excited to see out there on track, and it was certainly a shame when Berry ended up in that inside barrier. But just having a look at Lilac Zia on the back of Lucas Nilges here. Zia looking like she started to get a handle on the conditions, very conservative on the brakes on that inside line, doing her best not to lock up a tyre, but these two are going to get very bottled up, a little bit bottled up behind Christina Ryan, who is about 6 seconds off the back of that fight for third place. Just about hanging on, but she's got some great visibility in front, and I'm sure the spray that you are seeing completely cloud Zia's vision here. Just not having to deal with that. Sounds like you might have a mute microphone there, Olivia. Well, maybe it doesn't look like it. Zia then you saw just pulling to the inside of the track there to try and get a look down into turn one. Again, with how little you can see, with how much spray is being thrown up, you need to try and get the car out of line where you need to pick your braking point. This is Lucas Nilges, who is between the cars of Ryan and Zia. So they're just trying to stick to the back of Christina Ryan and try and find a run. And again, I've said it before, I'll say it again, now is the time to start playing with lines to find where the grip is, because now we've got 10 cars circulating out there on track. They are moving all of the water around off the track surface, and it's going to dynamically change where that grip is. You see Zia going for a very wide line through turn 5. It's going to drop her off the back of the 3 car through 6, using all the curve on the inside to try and gain some sort of rotation. But it looks like she had a handle on the conditions a lap ago, but now she's really started to drop back, and it's the 2 cars in front of her that are moving forward.
Yeah, she actually caught the grass on entry to turn 5, which I think hampered her braking a little bit and forced her deep through there. I think closed up very well, but now the visibility really starting to hurt Lilac Zia. She's a very calculated driver, so working forwards is not a surprise, but this is where that lack of qualifying lap really does hurt, because every move is just agonizing to make in conditions like this. You've got your preferred line and you don't want to straight off it, but then you can't even see what the other lines are and where the other cars are. You see how far out Lilac ducked and back of shot there. Just try and spot a braking point and to work out what was going on ahead. These are such difficult conditions. The wipers will only do so much for you. And I think really struggling for visibility is the 89 right now.
Complete non sequitur. The only thing I've been able to think in the last 5 minutes or so is, can we get rain tyres on the Mission R, please? Because this would be so much fun in that car. Of course, the official iRacing Championship coming here last season, there was some really good scraps in that race. But imagine it in these conditions. These supercars are hard enough to drive, but can you imagine having 700 horsepower underneath your right foot of instant torque on wet tires?
I mean, I'd be scared about the qualifying in that situation. I know we're waiting for really every car to get those with the tires. You know what's at the top of my list for that one, but
the
so
Mercedes W13.
Not quite. But it's so fun to see these drivers deal these conditions, and how every car really has a different dynamic in conditions like this, with how they find the grip, how much they can rely on their wet tires, and how much they can lean on downforce to offset the lack of mechanical grip. As Luke Snilge is a little bit held up there, a lap car not quite in sync with the lead lap cars here. And this will end up cycling Lilac Zir through as she finds the gap through that final sector. Great work from her to get that move done. And now she's got some clean air ahead of her. A couple seconds to try and chase back up to Christina Ryan. And we'll see how quickly she's able to recover now after getting a bit of a clear windshield. Joshua Gaiman, after that position at the back of the grid, now trying to work on the number 3. This is for the 6th, 7th, and 8th right now. The Gaiman has been very quick, so could try and get this move done, potentially into Atwood here.
Yeah, I was just looking at that move from Zia, and it looked like Lucas Nilges was searching around the track to try and find some more grip, whereas Zia, instead of putting a couple of tires off your typical racing line, this time fully committed to it through 8 and 9. So the 89, the driver of the 89, wow, that's a bit of a tongue twister, isn't it? The driver of the 89 through 8 and 9, finding grip on the racing line proper. And we're about to see Eva Melton throw it off the road down at turn 1. But we have had another driver just do exactly the same thing at turn 5. William Brown ending up off the road, missing his braking point. You're going to see him on the right-hand side of your picture here. Here's the Focus car, and just could not get it stopped. Bounces over that bump and slams into the barrier. There was a puff of engine smoke, so his day is done as the field drops down to, I want to say, 10 cars on track. No, maybe 9.
Well, that was Will Brown actually was another late entry to this race. Maybe some drivers still fixing up damage from qualifying, I'm not sure, but parts sort of filtering out, and Will Brown was one of them and didn't quite have a handle on those conditions just yet. And luckily, I managed to fly through without finding a lead lap car. Here comes Josh Gaiman, trying to look to the inside of Lucas Nilges, and is going to get there. But there's that puddle on the inside curve. It's going to be tough. Number 3 nearly gets onto the outside curve, and I think has to check up, and that will just let the 61, that purple and white machine, through into what is now 7th place. He could try to chase down Lilac Zir, who has caught back up to Trina Ryan. Trina Ryan has a wiggle through Atwood. She's on a very wide line here. Puts right across the nose of Lilac Zir on exit. And they are going to be in a drag race down towards the hairpin here. And this could get very interesting indeed. And Joshua Gaiman hoping to see more side by side between the two of them, so that he can try and get a spot in the top 5.
Fortunately for Zia, Christina Ryan was absolutely nowhere near her when she found where all that grip was on the circuit. So now all the driver of that 89 Ford Mustang needs to do is stick to those lines where she's found the grip, and she should be able to close up to the back of Ryan relatively quickly. So 45.8 for Christina Ryan compared to a 43.9 for Zia, and that's been enough to get her right up under the rear wing of Christina Ryan on this lap. But Zia now adapting to the conditions, finding the grip. It's looking like one of the fastest and most confident drivers out there. Through turn 10 they both come. Ryan a little bit wide and is going to check herself up just a little bit on entry to turn 11. Zia taking that normal racing line yet again, still finding the grip, and the gap in that fight for P5 drops to 0.3 of a second.
Joshua Gaiman was gaining through that section, but then had a slide on the brakes into Redman Corner turn 8 and has fallen back towards the clutches of Lucas Nilges. Has managed to hold the spot for now, but is no longer within striking distance of this battle for 4 seconds or so off Christina Ryan now, as that battle for P3 is very much still on a knife edge, but Bruce Silver not able to find a way around Robinson right now. We'll keep an eye on Lilac Zir, who is the hard charger right now in this field, and see what she can do to try and get around the number 80 and get into the top 5 here.
Well, I hate to keep banging the same drum, but we're going to do it anyway. The lap time drop off for Zia now, down to a 45.0, only 0.4 of a second faster than Ryan last lap. But she's closed up into within a couple of car lengths of Ryan. That's when that grey has become a lot more prominent, and it's where Zia starts to lose a little bit of confidence. She's a driver that really likes to be able to see the whole track at all times, and that's where she really starts to extract all the speed. But being in that spray, not being able to pick out a break-in, turn-in, throttle up points early enough just seems to really be hampering her pace. And driver that 80 Mustang just taking advantage of all the clean air and the visibility to hold on to position for now. Here's Josh Gaiman on the run down towards turn 8, already getting a little bit wibbly on the exit 7. Turns it in for that first hairpin, and the back end just cannot support what he's asking for it. Big slide out the rear. He does about recover it, but it's left him very much under threat from Lucas Nilges behind. His Derek Miller making a mistake that we've seen from so many drivers so far. Does get it slowed down though, and does keep it on the track. As we go back to the fight between Zia and Ryan. And Liv, is that the sun starting to poke its way through the cloud?
Maybe very briefly. The track's going to stay, I think, as it is. The white flag is out on the racetrack. Dietzen Statner dives it into the hairpin here. Just half a lap to go for the 57. As Lilac Zir just a little bit wider into the grass on the break into Atwood. Can she get it stopped? Yes, but that might be that in this fight. Christina Ryan able to carry more speed, but Lilac Zir did a great job to carry speed through the corner, considering that she's now in the grass again. Is that her trying to cool down the tyres, or is she just lacking for visibility? She's fallen way back now and could be under threat from Josh Gaiman. As, yeah, no, that's not the way she wants to make that happen. She holds onto it, drifts to the outside zone there, and now has half lap hold from Josh Gaiman, who's fishtailing at the back of shot. But through the final corner does come Bia Constantinou.
Celebrating already.
Pretty much uncontested in this one after that mistake from Derek Miller, I should say. It's going to bring it across. It's going to win race 1. And what a showing. And keeps out of the wall, just about.
Derek Miller will cross the line in second place, about 10 seconds or so behind Constantinou, even with all those celebrations. But Robin Robinson brings it home on that bottom step of the podium in race 1. Bruce Silver only a second or so behind for that one. It's Christina Ryan who will finish in 5th place, and Lilac Zir will take that all-important race 2 reverse grid pole. Joshua Gaiman couldn't quite do enough to get onto the back of the 89, and only managed to start 7th, finish 7th even.
And I mean, even the best drivers made mistakes there. This is gonna be a tricky afternoon for everyone, because the forecast is set to continue as it is. We're maybe going to leave behind some of these yellower patches of rain into a more lighter sort of class 1, class 2 sort of downpour. But even so, this is going to be very difficult indeed as we look towards the grid for race 2. But Lilac Zir did, as we mentioned, take the reverse grid pole.
Yeah, so let's have a very quick look at how the grid is going to line up for the second go today. Lilac Zir will start on pole position alongside Christina Ryan, and Bruce Silver, who was challenging for 3rd place, will now start in 3rd place. With Robin Robinson, Derek Miller, and Bianca Constantinou that will end your reverse grid starters, as Josh Gaiman, Lucas Nilges, where are we? Chelsea Carter, Eva Melton, Will Brown, and Nicholas Pressey will round out the grid. It doesn't look like we're going to get Bailey Thompson yet again, who hasn't been assigned a grid slot, as it will be 12 drivers that will once again make their way from the grid for race 2.
So unfortunate, she's missed that by mere seconds.
Yep, the lights are on yet again. The engine's rev for the second time tonight. And it's Lilacs here who gets away very slowly. Christina Ryan almost looking to challenge, but that second phase of the start not very good. But Robin Robinson to the inside of Ryan is looking to take that second spot. Derek Miller squeezes Constantinu to the inside, makes contact with Bruce Silva at the outside of turn 1. And there is a lot more shuffling for position this time, as it's now Zia who looks to have the advantage. Side by side is Constantinu and Derek Miller door banging through turns 2 and 3. They will slot out into single file as it's a big kick of oversteer, as it looks like a lot more rain has fallen.
Yeah, Josh Gaiman with a big move to the inside of Derek Miller is going to have that shorter run through Atwood, but Derek Miller carrying the momentum is going to be a drag race down into the hairpin, and I think the traction just worked out a little bit better for the 56. They're going to be running down. Christina Ryan did manage to fend off Robin Robinson just about into that turn number 4, but now into the hairpin. This tricky moment, and Lilacs is wide and off. She's going to have to wait for the rejoin here, and it's going to have another recovery drive to look at, as Christina Ryan takes the lead a little bit too far to the inside there for Lilacs here. And a little bit of a door band with the number 3, who I think has gotten away with that one, thankfully. But a dramatic start to this one, and it is the number 80 who leads the field.
Well, I'm going to be a little bit biased and say it's such a shame to see one of my drivers and one of my friends off the road so early in the race. But Christina Ryan will take first place at the moment. But Robin Robinson, who has been a faster driver than Ryan in that first race, really looking to challenge. Just seemed like the AT couldn't really get a handle on the conditions, but everyone else behind her, Constantinu, Miller, and Robinson, all looking really strong in the wet weather. Overtaking here, of course, very difficult. As we keep saying, the visibility so poor, so difficult to pick out your braking points. But Robin Robinson is going to pick one out that gets them right up close to Christina Ryan. Ryan sticking to what should be a much slicker racing line. We'll see how that works out over the course of the race, because we know that some grip started to come back into that portion of the racetrack. Earlier on in this one, I think we've just had a couple of blown engines go as well, as Chelsea Carter has pulled down pit lane. There's a sorry thrown into the chat by Lilacs this. I'm not sure if something's happened there as well. Will Brown has continued, I think just had to avoid down the turn 1.
Yeah, 2 separate incidents, I think, there. So this is Chelsea Carter, who is off in the barrier, and just way too deep. I think that is turn 1. Just doesn't quite get the brakes activated, and is all the way down the order. And this is like, let's say, just a little bit too heavy on the brakes again into one. Finds once again the corner of the number 3 car, and is going to shuffle that car a little ways back. Really unfortunate start to the race for the number 89. And that reverse grid pole, so you have to fight for it once again out of this one, and try and reverse the fortunes for race number 3.
Well, the battle packs starting to develop themselves. Ryan versus Robinson as a shot to the rear from Robinson down into turn 8. And it's a little bit of everything going on at the moment. You know what? I'm actually on a replay now, almost 3 wide. In fact, Ryan has lost that lead. Liv, you are the one who saw that one live.
The contact through the final corner sort of shuffled number 80 wide. Bea Constantinu, of course, looking to take advantage here. She wants to get back to the race lead and go for that triple on the weekend. Christina Ryan goes deep into turn number 2. I think try to get to the bumper of Robinson, but nearly finds the quarter panel of Bea Constantinu. 57 moves up into second place here, and is now to try and work on number 24, who has been a very tough cookie indeed in this one. Christina Ryan, I think, still looking to try and take that lead spot back after she gets muscled out the way for a couple of spots, and doesn't really have any response right now as she's back into that spray and that dirty air. See Bea Constantinu looking for the move into the hairpin. Is going to slot back in, set it up, and maybe get one down into Revolver. But Robinson to cover the inside. He can't really make a move around the outside here. And she's going to have to keep being patient and keep waiting for the next opportunity here.
I think it's going to be really tough to get by that 24, who will lead their first lap in the Marathon GT World Tour. Again, the visibility playing a huge factor in actually getting pace out of the car. Constantine not really used to running in all that spray so far in tonight's proceedings, but a driver that is very quick to adapt. 0.3 of a second is your gap between these two cars. Constantine just really hunting for grip. Doesn't have to finish extraordinarily strongly tonight. She's just going to score points over her closest championship rival all night long, but as a point of pride, she's going to want to take as many points as possible. Robinson blends over to the right to defend the inside of turn one. Both cars stab the brakes, and Constantino is going to go right around the outside. So much grip out there and makes it look easy. Constantino to the lead.
And we've seen her do this before. It was turn one at Watkins Glen when she made this move, and I think it was Emily Howe. Robinson is going to keep the nose in and actually going to have the momentum through turns 2 and 3. They're going to be side by side to Atwood here. Heavy braking downhill. Bia again going to get clear, and I think this time able to take the line much more smoothly. The rear end does whittle on exit, but she gets the traction, and she is now running away. Now Christina Ryan going to be looking to get that revenge after what was a very, very forceful move from the 24. But Derek Miller now looking for an opportunity.
Nope.
He's looking for the wall at turn 5, and that, I think, could be the race done for the 56.
Oh, it is.
It's just missing the break point, and great awareness from the 82 to leave the room there if there was any possibility that she would be turning into the path of the number 56.
Yeah, we can take you through exactly how that one happened as well. Here comes your ABN race replay. We are following Josh Gaiman, and we're following Josh Gaiman. So something else has happened down here at turn 5. We'll go back to that incident with Derek Miller.
Same thing.
It is exactly the same sort of incident going straight on down at 5, and the engine will blow up. Let's see if we can get that replay of Derek Miller. Bruce Silver having an off as well. So conditions proving very tricky out there on circuit. There's Lilac Zia in the barrier as well. Day done for the 89. And possibly, finally, we might get to see that incident for Derek Miller. It's Gaiman going off again. Straight on into the barrier. Engine go pop. As here it comes, maybe one more time. There it is. Late to it, but straight into the barrier again. Another engine that's going to go bang. But just with the nature of how that's straight and that run down to 5 isn't quite straight. Gaiman tried to cut a corner that wasn't really cuttable. Onto the grass he went, onto the brakes he went. The tyres giving him absolutely no grip in these conditions. But someone who has found grip in these conditions, Constantine, who is now 2 seconds clear at the front of the field. Even Melton actually up there all the way in 4th place. Will Brown going straight on down at turn 1 as it's all kicking off in the wet yet again.
Is it a little bit over the top for me to say this could be approaching red flag conditions? We've had a lot of mistakes on the brakes here. Lilac's incident was actually down at turn 1 and found contact with Bruce Silver, who managed to recover that one. See Will Brown as well into turn 1. It's 1 and 5 that are really the tricky spots right now. Just can't find, I think, just any sort of lockup that you get on the tyres, and there's just no way to recover it. Here's that incident. You see, like, as it goes to the inside, I think it's looking for some clean track and some visibility. Catches the paint on pit exit and pinballs off Bruce Silver into that turn 1 barrier once again. We're down to 6 cars on the lead lap here, and it is very tricky indeed. The current closest battle is Lucas Nilgers on the back of Eva Melton, as Chinwan had a moment in turn 1 of a much less dramatic fashion, but still dropped her off the back of Robin Robinson.
I get what you're saying about the red flag conditions, though. It is looking very tricky out there. And I don't want to say skill issue, but there's certainly some optimism ahead of a heat adhesion for a lot of the drivers out there on track, just trying to get pace out of the car where the tyres, the standing water, just the level of grip in the track isn't going to want to give you anything. Lilac Zia is going to rejoin the race down in P7. I don't think she's going to get much chance to challenge for that reverse grid pole position again, because 6th place Bruce Silver is currently about a lap ahead, pretty much. So a nigh impossible task unless anyone inside the top 6 does fall off the road. But saying that, it may not be that outside the realm of possibility tonight.
Yeah, I think you've got to keep that as in mind as a potential, and I think for that to get back out there is very smart, just to pick up some spots, especially because Chelsea Carter has done the same. So that is defending 7th place from the 43 with this. They're sitting about 30 seconds right now. Of course, that gap would be very close. This is a great opportunity for not just Eva Melton, who's having, I think, her best run of the season in this race, but also, of course, for Lucas the debutant, who is running inside the top 5 on just the second major competition for the number 3. So great work from Lucas, as maybe starting to switch back here. Eva Melton defends the inside through Redman and Hobbs, but is this going to open up potential move through the final 2 corners and a run down the start-finish straight?
I'd like to commend you, Liv, for doing your research on this track, having that track map open and being able to name each of the corners by name rather than lazily looking at the corner numbers. But is Eva Melton? Go on.
I remember Atwood and I remember Revolver because they're very good names, and I did pull up a picture to help me out for the rest of them just now. It says, oh, very nearly contacted turn 1. Eva Melton leaves just a car's width, which is pretty dangerous in conditions where it's easy to wash out wide. But they both keep it in the right direction. This is some great battling for what is going to be 4th place. And bear in mind, these drivers are going to start, if it stings signs, they are 2nd and 3rd for the final round of today's action. So this battle is going to be very good information for both of them.
Yeah, and I think that's actually something I wanted to touch on, is part of the reason that Lilac Zia made her way back out onto the track. It's just an opportunity to learn how the car feels in these conditions, find out exactly where you're going wrong, and try to correct those mistakes before you go into the final race of the evening. We are just ticking past 3 minutes left on the clock. It looks like another absolute no-brainer for Bianca Constantinou to win her 2nd race of the night. But it'll be Robin Robinson following her home in 2nd as it stands. There is Constantinou and there is Robin Robinson. Again, starting 4th, currently up in 2nd, showing some great turn of pace in these wet weather conditions.
Yeah, again, I believe 2nd round of competition for number 24. There's Justina Ryan behind, who has closed back in to within 4 seconds. It might be too little too late, but I'm sure race 3 is going to be a continuation of that scrap between the 2 of them. As we are 2 laps to go now, you see Constantinou flying through that opening set to a fantastic 1-2 complex here that is really challenging and rewards can set up that really nice exit down the hill. And then through Atwood, via sticking to the inside there, the track just kind of camber away, so I think that can drain the water outwards a little bit, and sticking to the inside line, very important to avoid running out into the gravel.
Yeah, whenever we talk about track evolution, we often talk about rubber being laid down, but I think in this instance, the track evolution is the water being lifted off the track surface, and it's a case of, over the course of the race, it looks like the racing line itself is starting to gain more grip, whereas right at the start, all the grip is going to be off that rubbered-in racing line. We saw the move that Constantinou made around the outside of Robinson, and we've seen all of those around the outside moves we saw in the early phases of both of the races that we've had so far tonight. But Zia was the first driver to pick up on it in race 1, and it looks like everyone else is starting to get that trick dialed in as well.
And let's not forget that it has been in these conditions all day long. There's not been any rubber that had a chance to be laid down today. It's just whatever's naturally embedded in the track surface over a long period of time, which I think means that the effect is a lot lessened than it would be if we'd have started dry, and then, as we saw at Long Beach, for example, had a sudden shower to finish out the weekend. You can really use that line a lot more confidently here as Bia does start final lap of the race. And you can see the puddles on the apex there of turn 2. This is about 4th place, sweeping through the final corner, and Eva Melton still fending off Lucas Nilges, but it's a very, very close fight right now.
Yeah, of course, also at stake in this battle is who starts further up the grid for the final race. Currently is Lucas Nilges, who will start from the front row, and Eva Melton, who will start just behind on row 2. But of course, Melton wants to hang on and bring home that 4th place that will be, I want to say, her best finish since round 1. but the driver of that 3 car just isn't letting it go yet, trying to hunt down the 81 as we have a battle between Ford and Chevy, well, GM, out there on track, and currently it is GM that is losing that fight. Mills just looking like he's starting to struggle in these conditions, just not quite finding the same level of grip that Melton is in that first sector. A couple of personal bests on the previous lap, but it's very quickly going to run out of time as we switch focus back to Constantinu, who took the lead very early on once again and is celebrating already as she makes her way through the final 2 corners, going very wide down at 10. It's going to kick gravel all over the racetrack. A little bit of a slide through turn 11 as well, but it's going to be downhill. We're going to see those celebratory slides yet again as your winner of race 2, Bianca Constantinu, does it again.
And I will say, by drift rules, which of course are very well known here in Japan, 4 tires off is in fact a 0 on that run. So
never mind.
Chance to try and improve it
well
next
here
time.
in
Joey
Japan.
Robinson flies through for second place. Gina Ryan will follow for third, and even Melton, despite a bit of a moment in the hairpin, is still standing ahead. But Luke is going for the switchback.
Ooh.
Melton just onto the curbs, struggles for traction, but I think he's going to win the drag race here and hold on to P4. Because Neil just slightly behind in P5, and Bruce Silver will be the final car on the lead lap and take home that reverse grid pole position for the 3rd round.
I was going to say, Liv, you say those drifting rules very well known in Japan. Never mind that. Those drifting rules very well known here in the booth. I think all 3 of us impartial to a little bit of drifting, virtual or otherwise. Yeah, with a bit of slidey cars every now and again. It's just on at an absolutely ridiculous time of night now that I can't afford to watch it.
Well, I'm sure as we wait for this 10-minute warm-up, we will get a chance to have a word with Miss Drift herself, who's still giving us a show through that second sector. The Constantinu is your race winner for race 1 and 2 in this one, and will once again have a job to do from 6th place into round number 3.
Yeah, get the kettle on, everyone. We're going to have a nice sit-down chat with Bianca Constantinu, who's broken the front end off her car. Hopefully we can get a chance to bring her into the booth and say hello. But for now, let's have a look at those race 2 results. You can see the sun starting to bathe Okayama a little bit, so that might actually help improve the track conditions quite nicely. Instances we do have a fancy little graphic that's going to pop up so we can give you the results of race 2. If not, we'll just give you a quick rundown. Bianca Constantinu wins yet again in the second race of the evening, with Robin Robinson bringing it home in second this time after lining up down in 4th place as well. Christina Ryan was able to bring it home in 3rd. She will start from 4th in the final race of the evening. Eva Melton with the best finish since Daytona of 4th place in race 2, and Lucas Nilja is almost challenging for that 4th spot on the final lap, could only manage a 5th. Bruce Silver, almost a disappointing result compared to where she was in qualifying for the first run. And Lilac Zia bringing that one home in 7th, a lap down. Chelsea Carter in a similar spot in 8th, with Will Brown, Derek Miller, Josh Gaiman, and Nicholas Cressy, your official retirement from that race. So let's bring in Bianca Constantinu. We've got a little bit of time to chill out for a second and talk about those first 2 races.
Hi. Just fun. I love this car in the wet so much. It's incredible. My right foot, after these 2 races, my right foot is like still cramping from how delicate you just have to be on the throttle. It's like nothing else on iRacing, and it's honestly just my favorite car at this point. But yeah, I'm just bummed that Emily wasn't here. It would have been an incredible battle, but yeah. Race 1, I guess, just about survival. My main concern was Derek getting the jump on the start. I thought he got a bit of a decent start, so I went a bit low to, I guess, not block it, but just scare him off a little bit. That worked out. And from then on, it was just about keeping the car under me, because that's that's generally been my biggest problem in the wet. If you remember Watkins Glen. Thankfully, there's no Emily Howe here now to bully me when I miss the bus stop. But yeah, race 2, just efficiency, I guess. I knew I had the pace to win here in race 2 as well, but I was just scared to death that that something was gonna happen like it has in race 2 so many times this season so far. I'm just glad I could control myself better than I did in these past races. I feel like I'm starting to make the changes to my driving that I should have made at the start of the season, but you know, it took some bad results and a penalty to get me to change my ways, but here I am.
Yeah, I think we've sort of run out of questions now from everything that you've given us there. So,
sorry.
Instead, I think I'll ask you, what's your favourite album of all time?
Oh, wow, okay. I'll have to... I hate that question because there's so many I like. I wasn't listening to I was listening to The Recipe by Kendrick Lamar. That's my last one. Well, I wasn't listening.
Yeah, I know we got some Kendrick fans in the booth.
Yeah, Good Kid, Mad City is up there. Also, College Dropout. Let's say that. I don't like Kanye.
We will leave the topic to there, I think.
Yeah, let's stop on that one. I think I'll hand it over to you. But can you find an equally not about the race question to ask?
I mean, to be fair, I just want to ask, how difficult are these conditions? So I do want to actually know this, because a lot of people, especially on the brakes in turns 1 and 5, go massively deep on, I'm guessing, a lockup. How tricky is it to manage that braking performance on a track as slick as this?
Oh, the brakes are the hardest thing. And you've seen it in qualifying. I completely just missed that hairpin. What turn is it?
Turn 5.
Yeah, turn 5. I think. Yeah. Because it's so easy to just miss. And the thing is, in the wet in these things, if you slightly lock up the fronts, you have to get off the brakes completely and just like wait for the fronts to start rolling again. You can't just I'll let off a little bit because that's how it is in the dry. In the wet, if you lock up the fronts, you're going straight on. It doesn't matter if you try to fix it. 90% of the time,
that is exactly what it's like in every other car on the service as well. It is so difficult to drive any of these cars when you lock up the front axle.
Oh, absolutely.
So what is your approach to braking then? Are you rolling onto it, trying to find where the limit is, or are you being a little bit brave with it, giving it a stab, seeing if it still grips up, and then going again? Of course, there's a couple of ways to do it, and I think the way the rally drivers talk about it is cadence braking. But what is your approach to getting this thing stopped?
I'm looking at the replay right now to see what I'm doing. I have no clue. So it looks like I'm not really going above 50% brake ever. I'm just not. I've set my brake bias a little bit lower than what's default, just to try and avoid those fronts locking. Because I would rather have the rears lock in case they do lock. Because the rears, if you get off the brakes, if they stop walking, obviously, the rear wheels start spinning again, and you naturally find some traction. So I'd rather have the rears brake out, as scary as it feels, than the fronts. But yeah, I'm never really going above 50% throttle, just lots of trail braking. Some corners I only go to like 20%, 20-30%, just super gentle on the brakes. You use them mostly for rotation.
In that case, might it be worth moving the brake bias a little bit further backwards to race things?
I'm comfortable where I am. I don't want to change things. It might get a little bit faster, or I don't know. But I don't want to change what I'm comfortable with, because this is what I've ran the first 2 races, and the last times in races in general, the last few times I've made these sorts of changes, it's never ended up well. So I'd rather stick with what I'm comfortable, even if it ends up being a tenth or 2 slower.
God, that's completely fair enough. Any further questions from the booth?
I just want to say thank you for joining us for another episode of the Vehicle Sense New podcast. We run twice a week here on Twitch TV/AVN Esports. And for the sponsor read, we'll go to Bia. Any shout-outs?
Oh, yeah. So as per usual, thanks to Jones Racing Setups, James from Stepping Stone, actually the whole Stepping Stone team. 213 Simware, and W because they're on the back of my car, and my mom for letting me race.
As sweet as ever. Cheers.
good?
Yeah. We'll see you at the end of race 3.
Hopefully see you soon.
So that was, of course, Pia Constantinu, the winner of races 1 and 2. Genuinely, Ruth, we are starting to run out of questions with Pia. Because how many times can you ask, how did you win that race without getting the same answer?
I mean, the answer is just built different. Is the truth. Pia's a fantastic driver. And yeah, cannot wait to see the charge through the field on race number 3 here. Got a couple minutes left, and so we'll do a quick rundown of the way the grid will look for this one.
Oh, do you want to take this one?
It will be... What's that?
Do you want to take this?
Yeah, of course. It'll be Bruce Silver in the Dogbox racing car, taking pole position with David Tom. Lucas Nildes starting on the outside of, or the inside actually, of that front row. Even Melton, after a joint best result in the series, will line up third for race number 3, with Christina Ryan in P4, Robin Robinson in 5th, and Pia Constantinu taking her customary spot, restarting from 6th place on the reverse grid. Lilac Zero, after that incident, will start in 7th spot, with Chelsea Carter just behind. And then our final 4 drivers eligible to take a race start being Will Brown, Derek Miller, Josh Gaiman, and Nicholas Cressy, but I'm not sure how many of those cars are still in full working condition for this final round of the weekend. We might see a couple less than we had for that second race. I'm so excited to see how Pia works her way through the field. It is always fantastic to watch, and as drivers have gotten more confident at that sharper end, I think she'll have her work out more than she did in race number 2 for sure.
Yeah, I think I'm trying to agree with you. I think the track conditions are starting to get a tiny amount better as well. We've gone from very wet to moderately wet, so there's going to be a touch more grip out there, especially with the sun peeking through the clouds. It should lift some of that water off the surface a lot easier than it was in races 1 and 2. So maybe that's where we're going to see some confidence start to sneak in from other drivers in the field. So it'll be one more race out there tonight. It's been a sweep so far for Bianca Constantinu. And all she needs to do is have a repeat performance in this third and final race. The checker flag is going to fly in warm-up, and we are going to move straight over to the 2-minute gridding process. So everything is reset. Some of the cloud cover moves back over the circuit as Bruce Silver will shortly line up on that pole position for race 3. Not many cars left to get on the grid now. As you can see from the standings, though, it's been a very uneven split between Fords and Chevrolets coming into this race. Certainly,
I'm sure you're thrilled about that.
Fords. Oh yeah, I'm absolutely buzzing about that. Go Ford, go! But for the third and final race, Liv, do you want to take us through the start?
Absolutely. Again, it's Bruce Silver starting from pole position. Lucas Nildes alongside. And we have a lot of drivers we've seen have strong starts, starting further back. Derek Miller is always good on the race starts here. Pia Constantinu, of course, on 6th place. The lights are up, the engines rev, and we are go at Okayama for race number 3. Derek Miller does get a great start, but so does Robin Robinson. He's going to try and go 3 wide for the lead.
Oh my God.
I think Nildes has to run. And around the outside, it's going to clear. Is she going to make the corner? Yes, she is. From 5th on the grid. That Wood Brothers 24 paint of Robin Robinson to the point of the field once again ahead of Lucas Nildes and Bruce Silver. Eva Melton with a not so great start. Pia Constantinu has worked her way around for 5th place. They're going to be side by side through into Atwood here. And here comes Derek Miller, who also had a great start. It's the dive. It's going to be a little bit shepherding Eva Melton wide, but just about to get away with it. They both catch the curb on the inside and have that wiggle. Now Lilac Zir looking for a way around as Eva Melton struggles to get that power down. She's going to be to the inside on this straight, and he's going to get the move done.
Robinson's off.
P7, but Robinson's off. And after such a great start, is going to have to be careful on this rejoin. Is going to get going on the inside of Revolver, but that'll hand the lead over to Lucas Nilges and Bruce Silver, who I believe was the car that Lucas was dueling with all of race 2, are now in inverted position, I believe, for third race. Can Bruce Silver get the move done here?
Oh, and it's devastation for Robin Robinson, who had a really good amount of cars between themselves and Bianca Constantini, of course, has been the class of the field so far, and had a pretty good opportunity to try and take a race 3 win. Constantini, though, still bottled up a little bit behind Christina Ryan. We said the track conditions had improved slightly. They certainly have. And it is going to put some confidence back under the seats of some of these drivers. But is it going to be enough for Christina Ryan? Constantini will peek to the inside. Ryan will defend to the middle of the circuit. Has a little bit of a snap on entry to 1. It's enough to let the 57 get alongside, and they will continue side by side on the run up to turn 2. Both cars looking very unstable on the way into that and through the middle of that corner. But Constantini, with the run around the outside, will have the inside for turn 4 once they get there. And Ryan is going to give that one up very early, as it's now Bruce Silver and Lucas Nilges in the eyesight of Constantini.
Yeah, that section through the S is so difficult to take side by side in the best of times. I think just very clever from Justina to leave distance to account for any potential instability from either car. But up at the front, Bruce Silver does go to the inside. This is actually a fresh face. Lucas fended off even Melton, but Bruce Silver going to be a little bit tougher and is going to get the move done up the inside of the hairpin. Lucas Nilges will have the inside for Revolver to try and fend off Bia Constantinu, but the switchback further behind. She's going to be on the inside of Piper and is going to throw a little bit of a block pass, throws out the rear end, try to get the power down, and does get up into second place. Now it's Christina Ryan and Derek Miller as the 56 Vodafone car goes for a move to the inside of Redman. They're leaning on each other here through Hobbs, and we have one hell of a fight. Here's Robin Robinson as well, who we know is fast, but had that mistake on lap 1. They're still side by side ahead, and Derek Miller going to have to concede and might be vulnerable here from the 24. Robinson will slot back in and try and go for the exit. What a fight that was.
Yeah, and this is why we love watching Ryan and Miller fight, because they leave absolutely nothing on the table when they go side by side. Bianca Constantinu has made her way up into second place. It's a big peak to the inside for Robin Robinson on Derek Miller. Almost contact in the middle of turn 1. And all of this is allowing the 80 of Ryan to get away, as there is contact, I think, between the 56 and the 24 into turn 2. Miller, with a half spin, does get it all gathered back up. But now he is lamenting down in 7th place.
There was contact, but it was with between the right rear of Derek Miller and that white painted line on the outside of 2. Just locked it up, trying to hit the brakes on that slick latex surface. And that is what sends the 56 around, and from 5th place falls back down to 7th. Great job getting it saved and avoiding rolling forwards into the racing line. Derek Miller is going to have to recover this one now, as Bia Constantinu starting to put the pressure on Bruce Silver. Within a second, Christina Ryan and Lucas Nilges fighting for that final spot on the podium, as the number 3 is struggling for traction and to fend off these incredibly fast drivers here. This is the best of the field.
Half a second is the gap that separates Silver and Constantinu. Just opens up to 7/10 as Constantinu going a little bit deep down into turn 8. But with 2 laps ticked off, 3 laps about to be ticked off, it will be Bruce Silver that still leads the way. Bia going a little bit deep through 10, just about gets it gathered back up for the final corner. That gap closing now to within 0.4 of a second. Now it's a question of which way around is Constantinu going to go. We will click off another lap and start the 4th lap of this race. Bruce Silver will be registered as your lap leader, but Constantinu looking to challenge for that one relatively early on, trying to find the gap to get past the driver of the 36, that Dogbox racing car, goodness me, still leading the way, as it sounds like someone somewhere has spotted something.
And it's Lucas Nilges. Turn 1 made a mistake. That will shuffle Christina Ryan up to the podium, and that is a front bumper missing for the number 3. We'll see if we can get another look at what happened to that Chevrolet there. But after a very hard, about a ton of pressure being laid onto the rear end of that car. And through turn 1 here. A little bit too wide through the mid-corner, catches the outside line with the left side tires. Just skates off into the barrier. I believe that is only superficial damage. I think the wheel's still pointed straight, so we'll be able to finish out this race, we would hope. But really unfortunate result after a really strong weekend on debut. That's how easy the mistake is. Silva still fending off Constantinu, as we still currently have 2 retires in this one after an incident at the back between Ethan Melton and Joshua Gaiman.
I can't lie, watching the way that front end fell to Camaro. Never mind, Constantinu to the inside. It's a mistake from Bruce Silva between turns 10 and 11 that will hand the lead over to your championship leader. 8 minutes left on the clock. 7 minutes ticked away. It's all it took Constantinu to take the lead in race 3. And as we've expected, and as has been laid down in the first 2 races, the 57 will likely run away with this one for the rest of the race. Silva 7 tenths of a second behind, but can do absolutely nothing to get back there. Still a couple more battles out there on track. You've got Robin Robinson putting the pressure on Christina Ryan, and Derek Miller within about 1.3 seconds of that fight, while Alexia within 1.5 of Derek Miller. And as the track conditions continue to evolve, we could see all of these battles just start to shuffle and change and dynamically move around.
Yeah, and that was such a tricky mistake from Bruce. It's such a high-speed section through those final 2 corners. You're going to be so committed to nail the outside line, to be ready on the brakes into final turn, and so just a little bit wide stopped her from getting the optimal braking performance, and it opened up the door for Constantinu to just try and run away, as Lilac Zir deep into the hairpin there will get rolling once again. As we've got a replay here. This is what happened to the number 89, I think the previous lap, and that's basically a carbon copy of what happened to Bruce Silva, a little bit of extra rotation through the final corner.
Great car control.
Yeah, I mean, this is the thing, it's to be able to succeed in a car like this, you've got to be able to manage when you're not in control of the car. And I think that's what we're seeing from some of these drivers now.
Yeah, what we saw there wasn't quite the mistake that cost Lilac Zir all that time. She got very deep down at turn 5, a corner that has been not only a bogey corner for her so far this race, but a bogey corner for so many drivers out there on track. Missed the braking point, going wide in the middle, dipping some tyres on the gravel, and there's just nothing she can do, and she had to recover. Back at the front of the field though, Constantinu with the fastest lap of the race, a 1:41.731. There's a lot of ones in there. Nearly 2 seconds clear of Bruce Silva in terms of lap time, that time by 2.8 clear at the front of the field. Because right now the 36 can just take a bit of a breath. She's got a bit of a cushion to Christina Ryan behind, who has to be thinking about the 24 of Robin Robinson, putting that pressure on. She cannot just stare up the road and only try to hunt down Bruce Silva. It's a way you can defend a spot by focusing on what's in front of you. But we know how aggressive Robinson can be, and we know that they're going to try and find a way through if they can.
Yeah, this is a very tight battle. Again, it's very much picking up what was left in race 2, but here's the fight now. Race lead still very much being chased down by that Dogbot car of Bruce Silva, trying to set something up, get around Bia, but it's going to be so tricky. Bia just very consistent, I think, through the corners is the main thing. They have to wait for a rare mistake to open up the door. If anyone who can force it, I think, in this race, it is going to be Bruce Silva, who has been strong all weekend long.
Well, you say a mistake is what's going to force it. It is what brought Bruce Silva back into this fight. Constantinu just, I feel like I'm repeating this at this point, going a little bit deep down at turn 5 and having to recover just a touch. And it's allowed Silva to close up on the back of that Ford Mustang in the dying 5 minutes of this race. Constantinu get to all gathered back up though relatively quickly, and as you can see, is already back on the pace, already a second clear of Bianca Constantinu, and again looks set to run away.
Yeah, now it's a 3-car fight for this final spot on the podium. Derek Miller making his way back through the field and is now within striking distance and really forcing Robinson to look in the mirrors as well as ahead at Christina Ryan here. This is going to be an interesting end to the race for this group as we have just 2.5 laps left to go. Starting into turn number 5 as actually gets there. It stopped. I was expecting that to be deep for the 57, but great work holding on to the brakes there. Christina Ryan.
It's been a line so far this race, being off that corner a little bit.
Yeah, Christina Ryan starting to close in on Bruce Silver here. Might have a shot at trying to take second place here. But again, Robinson, huge amount of pressure. This entire top 5 all really keeping each other honest right now.
Yes, they certainly are, and each of them just applying pressure in different ways. Silver's pace just dropping off a touch that has allowed Christina Ryan and Robin Robinson to close back in. Derek Miller not far behind this one either, but Robinson, again, a driver that we've seen be so quick here tonight, is looking for another spot. Big snap of oversteer on the way out of turn 10, turned into a look down the inside of 11, but no opportunity presented itself. Robinson is going to have to try and find some grip somewhere else on the circuit, but we are at a phase of, I'd say, track wetness where maybe the actual racing line is the way to find it, as Robinson goes for a big dive into turn 1, almost makes contact with the rear end of Christina Ryan, but those two just about managing to keep that one clean.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure how much intent there was behind that for Robinson. I think just trying to offset and maybe get into the mirrors of Christina, and then very much deep on the brakes and managed to get it stopped, of course. Robinson's taking these looks just get offset on the lines, even when the move isn't on. And I think that's a tactical decision. It's sort of a mental game being played, because if you need to force a mistake out of someone to get a move done, you need to put all the pressure you can and make them think there's going to be something happening, as Bruce Silver catches the grass on the entry of turn 5 and is going to fall all the way back to 5th place as she just comes to a standstill sideways on the outside of the hairpin. And after such a strong run from number 36, that has opened the door for Christina Ryan and Robin Robinson once again, who are inverted from where they were at the end of race number 2. Both looking trying to come off best of the rest, and of course Derek Miller keep an eye out to try and pick up pieces best that he can.
Yeah, and he's certainly closed in a lot more over the last lap or so. This battle for P2, I say overall as if there's multiple classes, covered by 1.7 seconds as Miller goes a little bit wide. This battle was, well, these 4 drivers were under an absolute blanket. Christina Ryan a little bit delayed off the exit of 11. Robin Robinson looking for a move down the inside where they've got it done so many times so far today, but goes very deep and very wide on the exit of the corner. Ryan is going to slide back through as Robinson is going to come under attack from Miller, who goes to the outside of turn 2 looking for some grip on the outside line, has to cut back. It's now going to be a case of who got the better run. You said it yourself, Liv, it's very difficult to go side by side through the S's. And I think the driver of the 56 is going to think better of trying to do that, as he can't see a bloody thing into 4.
Yeah, I wanted to try and get to the inside, but Robinson was wise to it, knew to cover that inside line to not let the run happen. It's now going to be a drag race down, but Miller with just a little bit of a wiggle on the throttle up the hill. And it might give Robinson a little bit of breathing room, but we saw the move that Robinson put into turn 1. Miller's going to try and replicate. It's going to be to the inside. They're going to manage to get through side by side. Can Miller clear? Because the inside's so dominant through Revolver, and there we go. There's nowhere for the 56 to go. Robinson holds on to 3rd place. Now Bruce Silver's been invited back into this fight to maybe try and pick off Derek Miller if there's another mistake here. Through into Redman and in Booth Hobbs. Beatrice stands to 5 seconds up the road. She's going to take a 3rd race win, barring a catastrophe. Back here, 2 corners to go. It's still all to play for. Everyone looking for any opportunity they can. Stanton, who flies around the final corner, is going to finish this one off. And there you see the entire chasing pack behind. It will be Christina Ryan who brings it home in 2nd, and Robin Robinson rounding out what is a triple podium weekend for her. Great work. Derek Miller comes home P4, and Bruce Silver rounds out your top 5. What a fantastic battle that was. And here we go, trying to get another 0 on the drift attempt. given the conditions, I can understand why. And
Yeah, I
a
think-
perfect weekend for Constantinu once again.
Yeah, I think that will count as a did not qualify going wide again. Dropping all 4 wheels off will count as a big fat 0. It won't lie though, that race got away from us a little bit. Those 15 minutes absolutely flew, as did every other race out there on track tonight. It will take a second as everyone files through to round out the results and have a look at how the third and final race of the night finally pulled together. Bianca Constantinu was able to make it a clean sweep of all 3 races and increases her championship lead by a lot over Emily Howe. Christina Ryan brings it home in P2. It's a brilliant second place finish for her. And Robin Robinson rounds out the final step of the podium. Derek Miller was challenging for third, but ultimately couldn't get it done, using his door to try and get past Robin Robinson. But Robinson returning the favor later on, that meant Miller could only finish in 4th. Bree Silver dropping from that 2nd place spot down to 5th and just couldn't recover. An anonymous race for Lilac Zia means she brings it home in P6, and it was Chelsea Carter on debut rounding out the 3rd race of the night in P7. Lucas Nilges just couldn't really do anything into ranked 3rd and final race and brought it home in 8th, and Eva Melton finishing down in 9th, with Josh Gaiman followed by Will Brown and Nicholas Prati rounding out the 10th, 11th and 12th spots. So look, what can we say about that one? The wet conditions truly throwing up some interesting racing, but that 3rd race was the absolute highlight of tonight.
Yeah, I mean, we always say that it's the great equalizer, and the very, very close competition there for that final round. Everyone had gotten their feet under them and given us some great battles there throughout the field, really trying to force as much as possible out of it. And yeah, seeing all 5 of those cars come across the line, I mean, that trail impact within 2 seconds of each other at the end of it all was fantastic. But absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, so we are going to get another chance to talk to Bianca Constantinu. We'll have to hurry this one along just a little bit because we want to try and have a chat with everyone else out there tonight. Bia, that 3rd race was a little bit more difficult to get your hands on. A mistake leaving you under quite a bit of pressure for the remainder. Of course, you were eventually able to pull away, but talk us through it.
I guess couldn't have had a perfect weekend, huh? Anyway, I didn't really know if I was gonna have the same sort of luck with traffic because I didn't race 2. I was just trying to be as patient as I possibly could. Once I got into 2nd, it was just, I don't care how long I have to be here. I know I have the pace to win. Just don't wreck the car and don't wreck the person in front of me. Those were my only 2 thoughts in my head. I would rather force them into an error. If it's something like this where I have no one behind and there's no point risking it, I would rather just wait, be on their bumper, force them into an error and get past them. Ended up working out in the end, but I'm not too happy about missing turn 5. Again, I told you it was a problem corner for me, and yeah, don't like that corner. But yeah, good fun race.
And it certainly worked out. I think race 3, as I say, it's certainly the highlight of that one. But you walk away from this round of the championship with a significant championship lead. I'm sure this wasn't the way you wanted it to go down with Emily Howe missing around here tonight, but yeah, I don't know. How does it feel? Does it feel a bit cheap? Is it one of those where a win is a win, points are points, and that's just what it comes down to? Or what's going through your head right now?
No, I mean, it definitely feels like a bit of a cheat. But I will be missing. I'm kind of happy because I will be missing around myself. When is it? I don't know if it's next round, but Monza.
2 weeks from now.
Yeah, 2 weeks from now. I won't be racing because I will be away because I somehow managed to qualify for the National English Olympiad, and that requires me to get on a bus somewhere for 4 days, and but yeah.
Congratulations on that. That's pretty huge.
But yeah, I'm not, this isn't how I wanted it to go. I was kind of hoping that I would be able to pull a few points ahead of Emily so that when that race came, we would be even going into the last race. That's how I had things going in my mind. It's a bit of a sigh of relief, but yeah, also a bit disappointing because I would have loved to keep that battle going. unless you know, something else happens to me too by the end of the season, which I hope not. But
Yeah, let's certainly not jinx it. This is a championship fight. We want to go down to the absolute wire. So Montreal being the next race, it's going to be a track that's really quite difficult to overtake. So going to talk us through how you're going to prepare for that one?
I'm going to try to apply all the lessons I learned this season pretty much, because I know that it's going to be a very different race to what Okayama was. I as much as I would love to get the sweep or get first and second and first, it's going to be about consistency. I would rather not throw away a race, like, you know, let's say race 2, for example, because that's when the chaos usually happens for me. I'd rather finish 4th or 3rd than 15th, like it happened in Watkins Glen, because that's still one of the races I just beat myself over all the time, because I know how much better I could have done. And the you know, if Emily didn't basically give me this huge lead, it would have been one of the races that at season's end I would have looked back towards. But I want to apply the lessons that I've learned so far and be a better driver and prove that I'm not, you know, that I don't just kill people for no reason. Because problem is, in my head, like when I'm racing, when I'm angry, when I'm in traffic, it's not that I'm trying to be dirty. It's that I get impatient, and I make costly errors that end up, you know, sometimes they take other people with them, but other times they just screw me over, and I can't let myself do that. I can't, even if I do end up somehow winning this championship, I don't want it to be like I don't want it to come down to like the last, like 1 point in the last race because I DNF'd 5 races.
No, that's certainly fair enough. I've got one more question for you. You're not allowed to give us any reasoning. You just have to give us the first answer that comes to your head.
Right.
Would you rather fight 100 duck-sized horses or 1 horse-sized duck?
Seriously, Taylor?
Yeah.
Oh my god. Is this what? Oh god, okay, I deserve this.
Straight away. No thoughts. Go.
One duck-sized horse.
Oh, it will be a horse-sized duck.
Huh?
Thank you, Bianca. If you got anyone you want to shout out, now's your opportunity.
No, Taylor, keep going. Yeah, shout out as per usual. Stepping Stone Motorsports, GRS, 213 somewhere, and my mom.
Thank you,
I'm liking this podcast.
So ends another episode of the Beer Constantini podcast. We'll see you next time out in Montreal.
See y'all later. Cheers.
And alongside me here, I have double podium for this weekend once again. Christina Ryan, I think, probably smashing expectations yourself. I think at this point we kind of expect those strong performances and some great battling throughout those races for you. Some great fights with Robinson and with Derek Miller. Talk us through it.
Yeah, like you said, we definitely didn't have the pace today. The podium I didn't think we were going to be fighting for, but it seems pretty consistent that we are just slightly below podium pace, and everybody who's just above us is a little less consistent. So, especially in the rain. I wasn't the fastest today, but I'm always really confident in the rain, and I didn't make any mistakes today, and I think that's really what won us out a couple podiums tonight. Yeah, no, it was fun with Derek. That side-by-side was sketchy. I loved it. And Robin and race 2 was a little touch and go, but we talked about it afterward, and it was A-okay. And then race 3, I saw her make her move into turn 1-3 wide, and I was like, oh, it's forgiven. She knows wheels. So, but towards the end, I think she just got caught out on the braking, and it was just, I saw her coming, so I moved, so no issues there. And other than that, we just kind of kept it on the black stuff, and that worked out for us.
Great point. I'm not sure if you move up into second place in the standings from that one, but you're certainly knocking on the door of that spot with Emily Howe, of course, missing this weekend. We go over to Circuit Gilles Villeneuve next week, a circuit that has seen stock car racing in the past. How are you looking forward to what the supercar's going to look like there?
Do we not have Easter break off? Because if so, I'm not going to be here. That's unfortunate. So, yeah, I don't know. If
We are
it's
checking.
yeah, if it's 1 week,
It is
yeah, I won't be here. So, I'll be in Ohio. So, I don't know. It's a shame because I love that track. I would have loved to race there, but I guess schedule conflicts. But yeah, I really wish we could swap Monza around because I hate that track. I'd rather skip the one I don't like. But yeah, I mean, the points don't really matter to me. It's not realistic for us to be fighting for a championship. I just don't have the pace this all season. I think we have enough pace to maybe steal a race win, and that's kind of what the goal is. The goal is to get a podium, and we did that in the first round. So from then on out, it's just been being consistent and keeping the car clean and learning all we can. There's not many cars on iRacing that have rain, so every time we get to run in the rain, it's always enjoyable. I get to learn a lot more. I don't know how much of this will apply to other cars, but we seem to have a knack for it. It's not just getting lucky in Gran Turismo a couple of times, so I'm happy about that. Race 2 especially was exciting because it was a bit of a bloodbath towards that halfway point. I think we lost like half the field in 2 laps, so there was like a micro burst that was particularly challenging to deal with, and the gravel was all over the place, and that didn't help things. So those kind of races are where I feel like I thrive the most and make the most advantage of everybody else screwing up. So slow and steady today.
And we're asking sort of wildcard questions in these interviews this weekend. So my question for you is, you mentioned how much you love driving in the rain and how confident you feel sort of finding grip in the cars. If you could pick one car that doesn't have it right now, get it in the next update, what would it be?
Probably the Indy car, to be honest with you.
Yes! Yes!
Gang.
Yeah, I think that's the one that the Indy car needs it really bad. It needs a gimmick to make it more fun for me.
Oh, okay. No, never mind. I don't want to celebrate you.
I'm still mad about the green sidewalls at Long Beach. This is the worst tire compound I've ever driven on. But I don't know. I mean, it seems weird that it doesn't have it because it has the refined push to pass and all that reworking and stuff, and they've been working on how it handles on the road courses. So it seems like the one big car that iRacing seems to actually care about that hasn't gotten rain. So we better get rain before we get another GT3 car is all I'm gonna say. So
I will say, I've never seen someone encapsulate the room and then lose the room so quickly. That was extraordinarily impressive.
I'm an American, so that's how that works for me.
True. If there's anyone you want to shout out, say thank you to, floor is yours. Congratulations. Double podium this weekend again.
Yeah, no, stoked with that. Again, just kind of another week where we finished about 1 or 2 spots higher than I think we should have on pace, and that's adding up over the season and building us a great rapport to try and hang on to third in the championship, because I think that's what's realistic for us. And with that being said, a big shout out to everybody who cheers for me every week, especially on the weeks where I'm not too quick like this week. But I'm glad that we can put up some strong results. We've been putting up a lot of really good results across all the series lately, so I'm pretty happy with that. Been an underdog for the last couple weeks, it feels like. So yeah, stoked with that. Thanks to everybody who supports every week, and thanks to you guys for broadcasting, and thanks to VRR for putting it on. It's great to see Amity back in the booth as well, so good to see that.
Thank you so much, join us, and we'll see you when we see you.
Yeah, of course. Have a great week.
So certainly a few dramatic races here in Okayama. The rain, as always, throwing a spanner into the mix and keeping things very unpredictable. But in a week's time, over Easter, we make our way to the Great White North and find ourselves in the city of Montreal, blasting it around the awesome Circuit Gilles Villeneuve. It's a track that's been used for a lot of types of race cars over the years. Of course, one of those more modern park-style circuits in Formula One. Tell us your thoughts on it. I want to hear what you're going to say.
Do you like chicanes? Do you like switchbacks? Do you like passing opportunities where you can fight side by side through multiple corners? If so, may I introduce you to the circuit that is all chicanes, Circuit Gilles Villeneuve. You've got some sort of fast, sort of sweeping chicanes. You've of course got the infamous Wall of Champions, which I'm sure will catch out at least a couple of drivers over the course of the weekend. And it's just such a great little track that's been built, and I cannot wait to see what these next-gen supercars can do there. I've driven the old supercar there, and it was quite a tricky combo. So excited to see how these drivers take it on.
Yes, and take it on they will. Thank you for joining us for round 3 of the Marathon GT World Tour from VRR. I've been Taylor Mills. Alongside me, as always, has been Olivia Hayward with Amity Pulsatrix back on the buttons for this championship. We look forward to seeing you in Montreal. It will be this. Hopefully, it'll be the same broadcast team yet again. As always, it's been an absolute blast, and we are so excited to see this field of cars take on one of the best tracks in motorsport. So thank you once again for watching, and we will see you next time. Ta-ra.